Hi, everybody. This is Dave Bradley, and I am a master black belt with Johnson Controls, and I'm going to be talking with you today about kind of a side project, but it's really a habit I've formed of picking up litter. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the simple ways we can all help contribute to, one, preventing litter, and then cleaning the place up that we go around to on a day-to-day basis. I'm looking forward to sharing this with Prosper today.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today we have a guest who brings a refreshing mix of corporate savvy, community spirit, and yes, even some ska music vibes. Now, Dave, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to be here, Prosper. Yep.
Absolutely. Well, the pleasure is all mine. I mean, looking at your extensive resume here, it is such an honor to have somebody of your caliber on the show today. And for those that are watching right now, joining us is Dave Bradley, a former Six Sigma master, black belt from Johnson Controls, who's traded his corporate life to make a real impact on the ground. And quite literally, he's passionate volunteer with Keep Columbus Beautiful, tirelessly organizing litter pickup events and spreading the message of sustainability, one trash bag at a time. And you might be wondering why this is important. Well, let me tell you, Dave's not just about cleaning up. It's also about tuning in. Now, with a garage full of vinyl records and a trumpet at the ready, he's forming a ska band to bring awareness to sustainability and mindfulness. And today we're going to be uncovering the untold story behind Dave's journey, what motivates him to take action, and why you might just find yourself picking up a litter picker and joining him. Plus, we'll also dive into some unexpected treasures that he has found. And did somebody say golf ball, Dave? I don't know where that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I've found litter picking, and this was actually when I first started it. Like the first 4 or 5 times I went out, you find treasures, and I found a golf ball. I don't golf, so that was kind of ironic. But then I found a full. There was something. Oh, I found a really nice decorative license plate with kind of like kind of emo like teenage stuff on it. So I thought, well, that'll be great for my kind of young adult daughter. At some point, it was just perfectly clean and new. Found that on the ground, and then I found a full fishing tackle box, fully loaded with all fishing gear. And my son was over, and he was like, "Hey, I have a friend who I want to go fishing with." And I said, here you go. It was a full tackle box. And then I found somebody's wallet, like with cards and everything. And it was outside what you guys call a pub, I think, or, outside a local bar the night after. And I just turned it into the fire department. So that's a little bonus. Like if you go out and start to pick up litter that's around, it's one of those things. It's kind of like a thrift store. It's like, everything gets thrown out, or gets disposed in some way. And most of the stuff you want to make sure gets in the bag and you're clean and you got, your gloves on and you stay away because it does have disease, but every once in a while I come across something that's got some value to it. So it's kind of cool. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, obviously this is something remarkable. So many people will be looking at that litter and obviously trashing it, whereas you're finding treasure in these things that people are throwing away. What would actually obviously inspired? Because so many people, when they're walking around, they're just looking at where they're going or their GPS or their phone. What made you to actually start taking notice of these things that are on the ground?
Yeah, it's interesting. And I want to clarify one point. I still work at Johnson Controls, so I haven't given that up. This is an aside. As a matter of fact, the place that I work at supports sustainability, and I'm part of a business resource group there for that. So, but what inspired me was my wife is originally from Sri Lanka, and we took a kind of an extended time. I work from anywhere. My job, I work from home, so I can work from anywhere. So we were able to take a month and go to 2 places. One was primarily to Sri Lanka, But the other one, she wanted to visit a cousin in Singapore. And I knew about as much as an American knows about Singapore, typical dumb American. I knew it started with an S. I literally couldn't locate it or anything. So I started looking where it was at, et cetera, whatever. Dave arrives in Singapore and I find out that it's like, I think the most sustainable country in the world. I don't know if you knew that. And it's right on the tip of Malaysia. It's a city state, established in 1965. And from the inception of I found this all out later, from the inception of the country, they decided to get the most, like, to tap into world leadership, and find out what are the best things they should do for their country, and they have to be sustainable, right? It's a city state. There's only a certain amount of room in it, and what's amazing is they literally have like no litter, and everything is very clean. And there's a couple components. I do a lot of AI now, right? AI is great. And I ask, why is Singapore so great at not having litter? And first of all, it's pretty heavy fine if you litter there. That's one element of it. But the big element is kind of community involvement. There's a lot of investment in PSAs about it. And I'll just give an example. I was in a food court, and it's right near a beautiful area called Garden on the Bay there. But I was in a food court, big mall food court, and I went and got some soup from one of like a Chinese restaurant that offers all sorts of the full garden, and you get the soup, and it's a big bowl. They bring it out as this huge bowl of soup. I can't drink it all. I can't eat it all, but I've got a thermos, tourist thermos with me. And I said, well, I'm going to put some of the bowl of soup in my thermos. So I go to pour it in there, and a little bit spills out on the table, probably an American-sized bit of slop, like we are, and it falls on the table. And within 15 seconds, there was a food court, an elder lady right next to me, wiping up with a rag, going, "Oh no, oh no!" Like, it was urgent. And then that get cleaned up, and then the food court itself, it's like a cafeteria. I don't know if they have this in Australia, but when you're a kid and you got your tray and you put it in. So like that entire food court, they clean up, and maybe you have this already in Australia, but they clean up. Everybody gets in a line and goes to the cafeteria, goes and hands in their trays. So there's this conscientious effort there, and I was really impacted by it. And when I came back to the U.S., I said, well, what can I do in Columbus, Ohio? So that's where I live, Columbus, Ohio, right? Typical Midwestern city. And it's like I call it, even though we walk around, or I walked around, like just kind of oblivious to it. I mean, there's litter, and it's kind of like, it's one of those things you accept. But and I call it the dandruff of our society, right? It's just from our consumerism. It's around all over the place. Like, well, what are they doing in Columbus? So boop, boop, boop. I get on the computer. Oh, wait, they've actually got, with the city of Columbus, a nonprofit program called Keep Columbus Beautiful, and it's associated as an affiliate for Keep America Beautiful. And I said, oh, okay, that's good. They got something, and we're very responsive. And their program that I signed up for is you can adopt an area of the city, and or a street, or an area, and then you have to do. You lead for either yourself or you lead a group of people to be able to do a pickup 4 times a year in that area. So that's what got me started. And I said, well, if I'm going to be doing that, maybe I should look around my neighborhood and start doing that. And I started this habit of wherever I walk, I bought a litter picker from Amazon. They're $7.50 a piece. And I carry a bag with me. Actually, the bag I carry right now, I found litter picking. It was a real super durable bag. I found it when I was doing litter picking. But now if I'm out, I'm going to the store, or I'm taking a walk with my wife, I got my picker with me and I pick stuff up. It's really super easy. And so that's one thing that I'm doing. I'm doing another project where I said, my background is as a continuous improvement professional. I'm a project manager. And I said, I'm going to do a project that's based on trying to actually prevent litter, because what I'm doing right now is just cleanup, right? It's not preventing it. So that's the other thing. I've started a project that's kind of doing what we call it's a Six Sigma method, and people who are really into manufacturing might know what that is. Other people might not, but basically it's a real structured approach to take a look at what are the causes for litter and what can we do to prevent it. So that's kind of what my project is right now. Over the next 3 months I'm working on. So
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
obviously, congratulations for having seen that, because so many people just
Yep.
walk past that leader and they don't have the mind or the wherewithal to even start doing anything. Now, while you were talking, I was just also just sort of reflecting here in Australia, especially in Melbourne, in the area that I live in. There's certain times of the year where the council actually allows people to dump whatever stuff they no longer need on their nurture strip. And then it takes about a month or so for them to go through everything and pick it up and then clean it up like that. So, what you're referring to is, would you be going to areas like that and salvaging things that are actually functional, because people really throw away new stuff, like brand new pair of shoes?
Yeah. You come across that stuff as you pick up litter. But what I did was I said, okay, they're going to let me adopt an area of the city. And so what's really nice about the city of Columbus, and maybe a lot of municipalities have this now, is they actually have a map where they've collected data on litter on the streets, and it's red zoned or blue zoned, depending on how much litter is there. So the red zone is the worst density of litter. And I said, I'm going to take the street that has the worst litter density in it. And so there's this big long strip. It's 6 blocks long, and as it ended up, it wasn't a street; it's an alley, and it's in an area of Columbus called the Hilltop. And if you're from Columbus, you guys, a lot of listeners aren't, but in Columbus, the Hilltop is the area you don't want to go after dark, right? It's the area where there's people trying to live day to day as they can. It's a place with drugs. It's a place with prostitution. But they've got, this alley that's got this heavy litter density in it. And so that's the area I adopted to be able to kind of go in and help pick up the litter. And it's interesting what I found out when I started to do, like, that's part of my project, is do an analysis. Besides doing the collection, efforts, we did one already. We're going to have another one on November 3rd in the Hilltop in Columbus, Ohio. Anybody who's around, who's listening to this, if this gets around to people, it's going to be from, the next one's going to be from 1 o'clock to 2:30 in a Sunday afternoon. And the first one was great that we did. Myself and some family went down there, and we met some of the people that live on the alley. And one family we touched by, a Hispanic family, and two little girls came out, and they literally, their back, their cars parked in the alley, and they were standing there in their bare feet holding a little Chihuahua dog, and they're standing in the middle where there's broken glass, there's there's trash on the floor, on the ground. The tree next to them had trash 2 feet high, and in it was like major object, part of a car bumper, a broken dog cage, and so it's stuff that needed to be cleaned up. But what was interesting, what I want to get back to, is when I did this kind of study with Google mapping down the alley to say I want to do this project to prevent it, the highest concentration, guess where the highest concentrations of garbage were? I'll let you try to guess on an alley, where the highest concentrations were.
Like at the entry point, maybe.
Now, it's an alley where people can take their garbage cans out for the city of Columbus to pick up, right?
Right.
And so the biggest density was around the garbage cans. So it wasn't, so people are putting their garbage in the garbage cans, and then the truck's coming along, and but part of the project that I'm doing is you don't try to guess ahead of time. You try to have data support, what it is. But one thing I'm observing is the alley's narrow. And so a truck that would come down maybe your street or mine that has a couple lanes to work out of has the mechanical ability to be able to kind of get the trash in and out. Well, a narrow alley, these guys probably don't have that. They go to, the room to be able to lift the garbage can up. I'd be welcome to listen to your, or look at comments from your podcasters about what they think might be it is, and I can share my file with them where I have pictures. But basically, they just don't have the mechanical width to be able to get the garbage properly dumped out of the can, so it's spilling over and they drive on, and it gradually builds up. So not only does this area have all those problems, but then in addition to that, it's getting dumped on. It's something that, we're going to try to drive for some solutions on, kind of come up with some solutions if we can, the team that I've got. And I've got some subject matter experts that have volunteered to do probably half a dozen people with different levels of expertise that have volunteered to be part of this project and figure out different ways that, one, we can prevent the litter from getting in the alley in the first place, but then, make sure the cleanup's a little bit better for the people in the alley too. So.
Absolutely. Now, when you sort of introduced this topic, you say, it happened in Singapore and everybody within the community is very supportive of that. And they're cognizant of when litter hits the ground, somebody is automatically there 15 seconds to clean it up and stuff like that. Now, what sort of response are you getting from the community itself? And what sort of attitudes do they have, especially when they maybe see you guys doing whatever you're doing, or
well, it's interesting. So if people see us, I would say at least once of the time that I'm out there, maybe not, maybe every other time, somebody will yell a thank you. Hey, thanks, and like I said, the Hispanic family was grateful. This guy works as a mechanic down the street. He's got two little girls. It's a busy little family. And if there's a cycle of stuff not happening right with their garbage out the back of their house, he probably doesn't have time to really deal with that. And so it was great. For the most part, you hear gratitude. One time I was up in Lake George, New York, visiting my brother, and I was picking up trash, and somebody drove by in a pickup truck and yelled and swore at me. I don't know what he said, but it was just kind of weird, but that was an exception. So there's all sorts of people out there. But it's usually positive on LinkedIn. I get a big that's where I mainly kind of dwell for social media because I'm a business guy. But I get a positive response there, and I think there's a lot of misunderstanding. Like I had was like you always think it's somebody else's issue, like all these people who are littering, and it's really us. It's really the entire community. What you see is when you start to go around and take a look at things, and I'm focusing on one type of litter at a time. So as far as prevention. So for biodegradables, there's really kind of three main ones and then kind of miscellaneous. But the three main ones are straws and lids, plastic straws and lids. Roughly 175,000 tons per year end up getting contributed to the planet. About half of it's on land, half of it goes into the sea. The other one is food wrappers from convenience stores, right? Everybody loves to stop at the convenience store, get a little something to eat, and it's all stuff where we're kind of going in motion, right? So it's not the stuff like around the house. Stuff around the house, it gets in the recyclables. It goes to where it needs to go, right? But the stuff that's transitory, somebody picks up their snack, grabs a Twinkie, doink, and they don't get that in the right place, or maybe they think they had it in their car and it falls out. So those are where the big concentrations are for that. And the third one is that the most non-biodegradable item is cigarette butts. And it's the most numerous item. So you guys might see those around, at least in the United States, not uncommon to see cigarette butts around. And those never go away. They are something that needs to be picked up. And a lot of people think, it's just a little butt. It's no big deal, but it's the one that's probably the most non-biodegradable is a cigarette butt. So, and the solutions for that are simple. And each one is simple. For cigarette smokers, it's like, hey, make sure that you, get it in an ashtray. They need some help, right? Businesses, sometimes I go to businesses that have a lot of traffic. They don't have any ashtray receptacles outside, and if you've got a lot of traffic, you should be responsible for your customers that smoke and have those available. We could ask somebody to do something hard, which is like quit smoking, right? But I used to be a smoker, and I know that's one of the hardest things to do, right? So let's go for something simple, and we can just take care of the problem that way. There's also now biodegradable filters that are being offered for cigarettes. So that's one. Just to mention one that I'm trying to focus on one at a time. The one I'm focused on right now is straws. So plastic straws versus paper straws. How many paper straws? Do they do a good job in Australia with paper straws?
So right now, I think all cafeterias or even McDonald's or places where people just get like a fast drink or things of that nature. Yeah, we've moved on to the paper version.
Yeah, see, we don't have that in the U.S. We're still cranking out plastic straws like crazy. And so there are manufacturers that are making paper straws, and there are people who are using them. But I'm doing a survey right now of Broad Street, which is the street right by the alley of restaurants, and I haven't completed it yet. I'm about halfway through the data. There's about 50 restaurants, and I have yet to find one that's using paper straws yet. So part of the project is going to see if we can convert some people on Broad Street to use paper straws, but it's not. There. I'm not saying there's not places that are doing it. There are, but it's nowhere near some of the countries like Australia that have said, hey, you know what? Don't. Let's make sure people have paper straws, right? Because at least paper is going to go away, at some point. Now, it is important to note that paper, if it's in like the countryside or in a suburb, it's probably more got a chance to be biodegradable, But if it's in clumps in a city or urban area, it can be really, really hazardous to the health of the people there. So it carries disease. It's something that really needs to be picked up. So if you see paper, you might think, and you really can. If you're trying to be strategic and you're picking and get the plastic, we got a lot to cover in the United States, then you can focus on plastic and get it up. But if you're in a city area, you definitely want to get up the paper too, because it's a big health hazard to have these clumps of paper and disease around. So.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for that, because obviously living in a clean environment, caters for a good quality of life. You breathe better, and there's no mold around the area that you're going to be in.
Yeah, dirt, asthma prevention.
Yeah, absolutely. But you mentioned cigarette butts. This is something that so many people might just come across, and it's become a sight that people don't care much about. Can you explain why they're so harmful and what more people should know about this overlooked problem? Because
I think one of the big things, and I forgot to mention, is they have toxins in them, right? Believe it or not, and I used to smoke cigarettes, like I said, but it's a habit where it's like you're literally taking tobacco and bringing it through what used to be a plant, cellulose, but now it's been plasticized, and those plastics have these toxins in them, and so people are smoking that. But then it goes on the ground, right? And then, it just breaks up into. It never goes away. It just breaks up into microfibers that then get ingested by plants and animals and can kill them, right? And then it goes into the groundwater and becomes part of our groundwater. And I don't know if you've heard kind of recent studies, about the level of plastics that are in our bodies now. And it comes from water, our ground supply water. And so that's one of the contributors is these cigarette butts that are around. And it's interesting. It's one of those interesting phenomena too, I think, because I'll find clumps of them when I'm picking. And I think once one goes down and maybe a couple go down, then people think, if you're around the area, people think, oh, that's the place where I can put it. It's an interesting one too, because if there's not an ashtray, the smoker's left with the dilemma, right? They've got their cigarette. I used to be a smoker, right? You're going from one place to point A to point B. And what do I do with my cigarette? I could put it in a trash can. I know I've always thought this is like, well, that trash can might start on fire. Like, I think I've put this thing out, but what if there's a little ember? I might start fire. So it always seems like maybe the best place is, I'm going to pitch it on the ground where it's nice and moist, and soft, and I'll know it's damp there, and the cigarette will go out. So I think that is part of what contributes to it too. But it's very dangerous for animals, plants, and human beings. Can hurt us all when those are out. Seems innocuous, but it's not good. So if you pick up anything, pick up cigarette butts. Like I said, use a picker, use gloves, because that is something that's you want to make sure you got a good wet bag for it and everything when you're doing it. So want to pick it up carefully, but get it off of there, get it off the ground. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, just the logic of a cigarette in and of itself is you are using that butt as a filter of all the toxins that shouldn't come through to you. So you can only imagine if you're now going to be dumping that, all those toxins are now concentrated in the one particular, small place. And
right. And they're in a non-biodegradable plastic now too. They're like in a little capsule, right? It's like, it's just so, it's so evil, and it's, it's so, either intentionally or unintentionally. It's just like one of these. It's a bit real bad thing. Like it's about the worst thing we could do. Like somehow humankind came up with that,
It's like a,
and we need to stop it. We need
it's
to,
like a slow
yeah,
release of some toxin right there.
yeah. It's horrible. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. No, you did mention, I mean, communities get involved. Some people acknowledge you guys passing by, and well, obviously, there's the rogue people in the truck that yelled some profanities at you while you were
Yeah, like I said, that
doing
was an exception, one exception.
the right thing. But
Uh,
along the journey, you've actually met some really interesting people during your cleanups. Like I read somewhere you met a family from Belize. How there's
oh yeah, that's right. That's where they were from. That Hispanic family was from there.
right,
So just when I think about their journey, um, to come to this country and to really be on that lower edge of really being really what America's about, trying to make that start as a family and trying to make a good place for their in their community and probably going to the low end part of the community to start that. But I know that they'll have a progress. And what really touched me during that was the two little girls, and I thought about them, and I thought about the promise of America, and that gave me hope because I know that those two sweet, smart little girls, they're probably 5 and 3, are going to go on in this country. You have like all sorts of opportunity, and I know that given a good environment, and with the parents that they had, hardworking, loving parents, super friendly, that we've got, that's a treasure right there, right? That's going to come and benefit our country. So, it's like the least we can do is make sure that they've got a nice, clean place to be able to live in and to show the example. Like, I don't know if I left an example or not, but at least they saw one adult out there picking up trash. And this weekend, I had a really nice event. I have two grandsons, Bear and Fraser, and I went over to visit them. And I got little trash pickers for them. I said, "Hey, we're going to go take a walk," and they got into it so much. And Fraser's 3 years old, and he's like trying to pick up a little piece of litter with his tweezers, and it's just it's a project for them. And this is the walk that Bear takes to school, or takes for the school bus, and he's telling me about that. But he was like, Bear's like, "Is this a game, Grandpa?" And I said, "Yeah, it's a game, but it's serious. We got to be able to make sure your neighborhood's clean." And
uh,
so kids love it, man. I mean, if you take a child out to go, I mean, safely once again, and make sure that they wash their hands afterwards and all that other good stuff. But that is something that we need to do. We need to show our children. That's where the promise is that, hey, you can make a difference. And it's a little thing they can walk out the front door anytime they go. They can make the world around them better. And what I see, believe it or not, it's like some people think like trash blows through all the time, but the areas that I go pick up, let's say I go and do an area near the supermarket near me. If I go back 3 or 4 days later, or a week later, it's still pretty clean. Like that trash that you see out there has been laying around for a while. Some of it's embedded in the ground, and you're going to have that, or I receive that satisfaction. Like just when I first do it, and I look back, and go, hey, it doesn't take long, man. 15 or 20 minutes, you can clean up a whole big, pretty significant area, like an acre or so. You know, and then when I go back a week later and say, hey, look at that, looks pretty good still, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe I saw one place was like, oh well, it's got hit again. But most of the time, it sticks. So and places you visit frequently, you can kind of be the little maintenance person. So and help keep it clean. So.
absolutely. I like how you're involving the grandkids as well. I mean, it's just really passing on the legacy and the ripple effects. When we were growing up, Dave, we were always told, especially at school, that your pocket is the first bin, and then when you come across a bin, then that's when you gonna put stuff away, and that has always stuck with me. So I can only imagine when you're with the
That's a
kid,
good one. Yeah,
yeah, when
I
you're
like it.
fantastic. But let's talk about obviously how you've been going along. This whole leader picking stuff is a side gig, so to speak. And in this side gig, you've managed to create yet another side gig with your vinyl records. First of all, what got you into selling records, and how does music
Yeah.
tie into your message of sustainability?
Well, yeah, that's interesting. And it does tie into it. It actually preceded my litter picking. And um, I got into it. I think, as life goes on, and I'm not going to share the particulars of my wounds and hurts that happened, but I had a significant loss in family. And so I was grieving that. And music was always a big part of my family growing up. And my dad was actually a DJ for an occupation. And one of the things that he did, and it's how my mom met him, and she heard him on the radio and called him up, and they had a date. That's the rest is history. But so when I was trying to heal from that, I had these vinyl records downstairs. Right, I'm a creature of this, a teenager, 70s teenager, right? So I had a group of vinyl records from that time, but they were down in my basement. And about 9 or 10 years ago, I brought them up. I started listening to them, and because I wanted to hear some of that music, and it was a healing experience for me to be able to do that. But at the same time, I looked them up on the internet, and I was like, wait a second, vinyl records are becoming popular again, you know. And so from that point on, I just started looking for them in thrift stores, estate sales, and then there's a real great website called Discogs. If you don't know about it, people collect records, but people can build a store on there. And so I started to do that because of my dad, because of my upbringing. I know a lot of different types of music. Okay, and then when you start to collect records, you start to really hone in on who the great artists are.
Yeah.
And a lot of records are $1 or $2. You don't really make anything on those, but there's some that have, I'd say, the good ones on average will be now $9 or $10, and I pick them up for $1.50. I could go on about vinyl records. It won't go too long because I could go on and on, but it's the best form to be able to do. Like you say, it's a real sustainable thing, right? Those are going to be around forever, and you can kind of resell them or reuse them or just listen to them yourself. I love it as a hobby, and I've shipped records all over the world. I've shipped them to Russia, I've shipped them to Japan, I've shipped them all over the United States. So it's a fun hobby.
It's
Yeah,
reusing plastic and always, putting it still sustainable. But not only are
yeah.
you working with already recorded music, you are also actually creating your own music, right? By formulating a band and
I want to. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do right now. So I've got about 7 years under my belt as a trumpet player.
right.
Pop, classical, jazz. I've been in jazz band and stuff like that. But as a younger guy, and more recently, I picked up my trumpet again, and I said, if I'm going to play something, I want to play something fun for one. And so I've always liked ska and reggae music, and so I said I'm going to start to practice that. I'm doing some online lessons for that. But what I'm trying to do right now is to be able to kind of get together a small ska group. There's a few people, and to be able to do events that help support events that are around things we can agree on. So we have so many things that divide us, and the two subjects that I want to kind of focus on are sustainability and mindfulness. All right, those are two large topics right now, especially in corporate environments, and then also just kind of on the street. And so that's kind of my vision, is to get a group of people together and start to play some good vibe ska music. There's so much in 60s ska, 60s and 70s ska that has such positive, good, uplifting messages to it that I think it'll be a good combination. So that's kind of something I'm going to be doing over the next few months or so. See if I can get some people together and start to, play some ska gigs. It would be great. It's
Mm.
the type of music I enjoy. So
But Dave, I've got to ask you, man, what keeps you motivated to continue? I mean, you did mention there's people that were yelling at you from the truck, and obviously there's other people that just maybe don't say anything, but not saying anything,
yeah,
saying something in and of itself. And sometimes the results that you're after, especially the cigarette butt issue,
yeah,
or even the plastic game, is not going to just take only you, but a whole change of the system or institution around that particular cleanup sort of setup. What keeps you motivated to continue?
Well, like I said, I've always worked for my career on continuous improvement projects. And the interesting thing that I found out about that is that, you think that sometimes you think that big problems, and I've faced a lot of big corporate problems, have to be solved with a big group of people. And the truth is, if you can get a nucleus of people to move in the right direction, then they can accomplish a lot and they can inspire the other people to do what they can do. And it's stuff on the small level, the small changes. I mean, I could cite a bunch of different corporate solutions of big problems where just little changes made the difference, and implementing those little changes changed the entire marketplace that I was involved in. So it's the same thing with this litter thing. It's just really getting a small group of people. I'm excited about this project because the idea is like if we can get something successful in a small located area in Columbus, Ohio, maybe we'll have solutions that can spread out further or network with people that have solutions. Um, so, um, I'm always hopeful. I've seen big changes happen in the corporate world. I know that big changes happen in our world. Positive things happen all the time. You know, we don't have to live on the negativity that our news is focused on because it's sensational, but we can focus on the positive things and know that these changes will come about. And the big why I do everything, a lot of things I do, why I work, find fulfilling work that I do, why I'm involved in a learner thing, why I'm playing ska music and trying to motivate people there. Um, for me, it's always come down to it used to be my kids, now it's my grandkids. It's like, you know, they just give me so much that that's what inspires me to kind of do anything, you know. And if I ever get kind of ungrounded, which happens, everybody does, I just I think about two things: either my grandkids or my mom, who's still alive, who's 90 years old, and has a great sense of humor and gave me so much, you know. And so that's what keeps me going. It's simple. Just keep it simple, you know those things that mean things, are meaningful to me, are the things that I want to give back to, and my wife and my kids. So, I want to just set a good example, man, and I know that that's who I can influence. But if everybody influences their family, we're all just parts of families. Then we'll be able to tackle anything. So that's the way I look at it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, from little things, big things grow, and it's usually the small hinges that actually swing the big doors. But
Yeah,
there's people that obviously, the people that we have as neighbors or people in our community who still say it's not their problem. How would you engage others in such efforts, especially, knowing the impact that this might have on the quality of their own life?
yeah. Um, I don't know. I've always lived and done, like I said, the successful projects that I have is I work with people who work with me. So there's really three types, right? Maybe there's four, but there's three types. There's people who are like-minded, and that's a powerful group. And those are the people that, you want to work with. The like-minded people, you're going to get together with them and move forward. And then there's the people who are kind of on the borderline. They're checking it out. They're interested, but they're not too sure. And that's another large group of people. Most people, you know, that's what I say. It's something we can all agree on. I don't. If I ask the average person on the street, even though they might not be talking to me, if I went up to them and said, "Hey, what do you think about litter?" They're going to be like, "Yeah, it's horrible." You know. So those people are going to see by example. And I've always, um, you know, um, tried to gravitate towards some leadership where I'm at. But I've always considered that leadership is a servant deal. Leadership is an example deal. You always got to be the first one in, right? So it's not about getting up and making a great speech. It's not about, they like movies to have the rallying cry and everything. It's about, oh wait, that guy's going in first. That guy's trying it first. And those are the real leaders. So that's what I go on. And everybody else, like the fringe that's out there, might be the naysayers, or it's not my problem, or wherever their head's at. Hey, my head's been there too, at times about stuff. But you just got to move on, man. You just got to, you're not going to be able to change some people. And I think an expectation that you're going to change everybody is ridiculous. You're not going to be able to do that. You got to go with the people that'll work with you, and then lead by example, and you're going to win some people over. And that's enough of a nucleus to be able to really change the world. I mean, and that's how change happens, really, I believe. So.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
for those that are watching this right now and feel like they are compelled to maybe join your mission and be a part of what you're doing, or start their own leader peaking communities where they live, what would be the best way to get in touch with you and get inspired, or information on how to get started and organize themselves?
Yeah. So there's a couple things before you get together with me. Go on Amazon or whatever you guys use over in Australia. Do you use Amazon? I don't know. Do they have Amazon Australia?
We've
Do they?
got
Okay. Yeah.
everything.
Okay. All right. I know it's all over the place. Get on there. Like I said, you get 2 litter pickers for $15 US dollars. Right. So get a litter picker, grab a bag, and just work on your own neighborhood and where you're going. The other thing is, if you do want to get involved in a municipality in the United States, and I'm sure they have something similar in Australia. I know they do. I've been to Australia; it's beautiful, and you guys got something going on. So, but basically, Keep America Beautiful is a large umbrella nonprofit in the U.S., and then municipalities can have their own individual, like Keep Columbus Beautiful. And I haven't really gone around and checked and see how many people are doing it, but I imagine most municipalities have adopted that program. So just do a Google and find out where your Keep whatever beautiful is. If it's not already in um, your town, then you can contact Keep America Beautiful and get things started. So that's really just this adoption program to adopt an area and start picking up litter, lead by example. And it's kind of like once you start picking up litter, your mind automatically goes like, well, how can I use less plastic? And you just go to those little things that, okay, I don't need that. The one thing that gets me is, cups and lids and straws on cups. Now, I was in a generation where that kind of came around 60s and 70s. But when you sit back and think about it, why do we need lids and straws on cups? It's like, we're not babies, Are we really going to spill everything all over the place? Maybe when you have the kids in the car, but once again, that'll be a learning experience for them to like, hey, let's not spill, and this transport society. And like I said, just today, I ordered a smoothie. I did it in a permanent cup. And I said, that's a simple thing you can do. Just say, hey, no thanks for the lid and the straw. When you're ordering, when you're going through the fast food or whatever you're doing, just say, hey, I don't need it. Because like I said, I don't think we're babies. We don't need it. It's like we got trained,
I can imagine. But Dave, you can also understand leads and straws put a lead on the law. Okay. So if somebody spills anything on them and they're on their way to go somewhere else, they would just maybe pass by the courthouse and tell on the people that didn't put a lid and a straw on them. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, well, no, all you got it, whatever. They leave it up to individual choice. At least in the restaurants in the U.S., right? They have it there. You can either grab it or not at the self-serve, or you can say, hey, no thanks, right? I'm not saying for the restaurants not to offer it. If some people still want to, and I do. Sometimes I want a straw, and maybe I'll get it, but I'll be responsible about it. But I'm just saying it's the individual choice. It's not the restaurants are a business that responds to demand, right? And if all of a sudden people aren't getting lids and straws, they're going to go, huh? What's interesting is on the survey I'm doing, pizza places in the U.S., I don't know about pizza places where you guys are at. I asked, hey, I'm calling them up, hey, do you use paper or plastic? And they say, we don't have straws. Like they just sell bottles of soda. So it's a takeout. They don't have any takeaway drinks. And it's been with every pizza place I've called so far. I went, oh, okay. Now, you can argue, is it better to have a plastic bottle? Maybe it is, not have 3 components floating around and just have one. Or like Germany, and maybe you guys in Australia doing it too, to use glass bottles instead. And Germany, if you go there, that's a very sustainable country. You can't get a plastic bottle there, right? For your life. It's all glass, right? So, but we're the consumers. We're in control, believe it or not. You might feel helpless against litter, but we're actually in control, and we can say no thank you, to whatever, litter is coming our way. Litter, that type of litter is growing by a rate of what they call a half order of magnitude. And I forgot the date. It's somewhere 10 or 15 years, but it's growing 5 times. It's going to be 5 times as much in like 10 or 15 years at our current rate. So, we're the consumers. We can stop that,
Absolutely.
and
Even
reverse it. Yeah.
you did mention that Australia's got a good thing going. I think recently we've just also stopped the plastic bags in the shop. So when you buy your groceries, by law, you're no longer allowed to use plastic bags unless they're reusable plastic bags, and it's
Yeah.
now all paper based, or you bring your own bags,
Yep.
or they supply you with the bags at the shop.
So New York State in the U.S. is like that, and
Right.
we got I have relatives up in New York, and my wife and I travel. And we got to experience that, and now we do it around Ohio. So you don't have to wait for a law. A lot of people want to wait around for the law to tell them to do something. You can just go to the grocery store, and you can not take that little plastic bag that deals down for the vegetables. Just throw your vegetables in the cart. You can bring something along from home, whether it's an old box or like these reusable bags that they got out if you want to purchase one. But there's a lot of stuff laying around my house. I can just bring it along and put my groceries in it, and then be selective about some of the stuff I'm buying, how much plastic it has on it. That's fine tuning, but basically you can make those decisions and check out. And those bags are only for two functions, right? Supposedly go from the cart you've brought out to get it into your car, and then go from the car into your kitchen.
And that's it.
Right?
And that's it.
It's totally you. That's it. Right? And then what happens to it? It's like, why? It's like the plastic, lid and straw. Why are we doing it? Like, just don't do it. And I lost, we've been doing it the last few times. My wife and I have been out, and it's like, it's nothing to do that. It's totally manageable and easy to be able to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, Dave, I can't thank you enough for this environmental and sustainability session that we just experienced. But what's next for you? I mean, any exciting trips to Singapore that might actually elevate you to some different? What are your next projects or goals?
What's next for me is my third grandson is coming.
Congratulations.
Yeah. And so he's out, and he's going to be emerging out in Phoenix. So I'm going to be getting out to Phoenix to be able to see that third grandson. But what's next for me is I've taken on a personal trainer. And so the personal trainer was talking about low impact exercise. And 2 weeks ago, I took my first rock climbing class.
Wow.
And I've been rock climbing like 4 times since then, man. It is so great.
Wow.
It uses your mind's going the whole time, and it uses every muscle in your body. You go up the wall like 3 times. The next day you're like, ooh, that was a workout. Yeah. But in a good way. It feels good. Yeah. So that's my next maneuver is and work and rock climbing places where they have that are really cool places to hang out and work from. Like, they all got Wi-Fi, they got smoothie bars, they got they're so chill. It's great. So that's my thing I'm doing right now is a couple times a week trying to get out to a rock climbing place. So.
Well, congratulations. I mean, obviously, like you said, you're not going to have grandkids, and kids find themselves climbing in weird places, and you now have the expertise to climb and maybe rescue them or play with them. So either way,
that's the next one. My grandsons are coming with me on the next one. They don't know that yet, but they are. And they're gonna love it.
There you go. Now, Dave, it's been inspiring to hear your story and just learn how you've turned everyday actions into meaningful change. And it's not every day that you come across somebody who's passionate about what it is that they're doing and creating such a selfless endeavor. I mean, some of the stuff that you're doing, like you said, it is hazardous not only to yourself but to the environments that we abide in. So thank you so much for doing your own little part in actually changing the world.
Yeah, it's my litter part. You said it. And everybody can take a litter part. It's no big deal, and everybody can do it. That's what's beautiful about it.
Absolutely. And
thank you, Prosper. Yeah.
Absolutely. You've actually shown us that sustainability is not just a dirty word. It can actually be both impactful and fun. And for those that are watching right now, if you found today's episode impactful, make sure you share it with somebody who could use a little bit of inspiration. They're looking for something they could do either for themselves or their community. This could be the one thing that they can do. And as Dave has said, just go buy a little picker from your local Bunnings or local Home Depot or Amazon, as he has mentioned, and just do your part. And while you're at it, watch the smiles of the people that are looking at you doing great thing. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay updated on all amazing stories that we bring each week on the Online Prosperity Show. Now, let's keep spreading the message of prosperity one small action at a time. Bye for now.